morning everyone. Let's start our chapter 3, metals and non-metal. Elements are divided into three parts: metal, non-metal and metalloids. As we discussed earlier, that there are 7 metalloids, 18 non-metals and rest are metals. Metals are divided into 4 parts. Group 1 elements are called alkali metals. Group 2 elements are called alkaline earth metals. D block element are called transition element and F block elements are called inner transition elements. So in this chapter we will discuss about the physical and chemical properties of metal and non-metal and how do they react, means which type of bond they form, means chemical bond, and last is metallurgy. So let's start physical properties of metal and non-metal. As we defined in class 9 that metals are electropositive elements and as they have tendency to lose electron. Why they are electropositive element? Because they have tendency to lose electron. Why sodium is a metal? Because sodium has tendency to lose one electron to complete its octet. They are generally lustrous, malleable, ductile and good conductors of heat and electricity. There are some examples of metal like gold, silver, sodium, calcium, magnesium, zinc and iron. Apparently, metals are lustrous. So, we can like gold and silver, if we cut sodium, fresh sodium, cutting of fresh sodium is lustrous, calcium, magnesium. These magnesium ribbon, as you know that magnesium ribbon is lustrous. So, zinc also lustrous. These all metals are lustrous, malleable, ductile, etc. Then non-metals. Non-metals are electronegative elements as they have tendency to gain electrons. Why oxygen is a non-metal? Because it has tendency to gain electrons. It gains 2 electrons. So they are electronegative elements. They are generally non-lustrous. They are brittle, means broken into small pieces when hammered, and poor conductors. But only one non-metal which is good conductor is carbon. These are the examples of non-metals. Why metals and metals are electropositive and non-metals are electronegative? Let's discuss it first. Metals, as you know, that when sodium, if we consider sodium or calcium, the outermost shell of sodium contains only one electron. This is the electronic configuration, and when it loses minus one electron, it forms sodium plus. Now its configuration becomes 2 8. So to complete its octet, metals have tendency to lose electron. For calcium, its configuration is 2 8 8 2. So when it loses 2 electrons, then it becomes calcium 2 plus. Now its configuration becomes 2 8 8. So to complete its octet, it loses its outermost valence electrons. In the case of chlorine, its configuration is 2 8 7. When it gains one electron plus one electron, then it becomes chlorine minus and becomes 2 8 8. Here the octet of chlorine is completed to gain electrons. So it becomes electronegative. Metals are electropositive and non-metals are electronegative. So these two elements are metals and chlorine. Next we consider oxygen. The outermost shell contains 6 electrons, 2 6. Its configuration is 2 6. When it gains 2 electrons, it becomes O 2 minus, and here the configuration becomes 2 8. To complete it octet, oxygen gains 2 electrons. So elements who gains electrons are nonmetals, and elements who loses electrons are metals. This is the simple way to understand. Now let's start the physical properties of metal. The physical properties of metal are that, as we already discussed, that they are lustrous, malleable, ductile, sonorous, good conductors, hard. These are the properties of metal. Start from the first property, luster. Metals have metallic shine and luster. Metallic shine is different from the shine of mirror. So sometimes other substances have also shine, but the shining of metal is called luster. Metallic shine is called luster. So metals are lustrous. So we can use it in making jewelries like silver, gold, platinum are used for making jewelries. Sodium, potassium, lithium have luster when they are freshly cut. Otherwise, it readily reacts with oxygen or water or the substance which is in its direct contact. So it loses its luster. But when we cut it freshly, then it has luster. The exception of this is only lead. Lead is a dull metal. Lead have no luster. Next is non-metal. Non-metal are non-lustrous, as we know, but the allotrope of carbon is graphite and iodine. These two non-metals are all another allotrope of carbon are non-lustrous, but graphite is the exception, which is lustrous. Next property is malleability. What is malleability? The property of metals to be beaten into thin sheets is called malleability. So as we know that non-metals are non-malleable, each and every non-metals are non-malleable. There are no exception, and metals are malleable, except mercury is a liquid metal, so it is not non-malleable, and zinc also are non-malleable. It is a brittle metal. Brittle means broken into small pieces when beaten, when hammered. So mercury and zinc are exception of malleability, and the most malleable element are silver and gold. Silver and gold are the most malleable metal. Next property is ductility. The property of metal to be drawn into thin wire is called ductility, and the gold is the most ductile metal. Non-metals are non-ductile, non-malleable, non-ductile. Now, next property is melting and boiling point. The melting and boiling point of metals are generally high, but there are some metals whose melting, like mercury. Mercury is liquid at room temperature, so its melting point and boiling point is very low. Other two examples are gallium and cesium. These two metals can be these two metals have very low melting point, and gallium can melt at our palm. Alkali metals also have very low melting and boiling point. As we know that they are soft metal, they can be cut by knife. So its melting point is low. So the boiling point is also low. Non-metals have generally low melting and boiling point. But there are exceptions like diamond, like coal have high melting and boiling point. So diamond is the hardest, one of the hardest substance, and its high melting point is very high. Bromine is liquid non-metal, whose melting point and boiling it is liquid at room temperature. Next property is metals are good conductors. Most of the metals are good conductors, but there are some exceptions. What do you mean by conductor? Conductors are conductors. The conductors are those substances which allow electricity or heat to pass through it. So, metals are good conductor. Best conductor are silver and copper. They are used in, copper is used in wiring in our houses or another. Copper is used for electrical wiring. And silver is used in computer etc. for very low resistivity and high conductivity. Lead and mercury are poor conductors. Lead and mercury are poor conductor of heat as well as electricity. Non-metals are, as we know that non-metals are bad conductors, and there are some, one exception is graphite. Graphite pencil is a good conductor. Next property is sonority. Sonority or sonoricity. The property of metal to produce ringing sound when you strike a table, wooden table, a sound produced, but that is not the ringing sound. The ringing sound producer are metals. Metals are generally sonorous except metals with low melting point like mercury, sodium, potassium, lithium, etc. And non-metals are non-lustrous. The next property is hardness, and we know that the metals are hard. The liquid metal is mercury and rest of the metal are hard. Some are soft, like alkali metals are soft metals which can be cut by knife, and mercury is the liquid metal. But in non-metals there are three states: solid, liquid and gas. Some non-metals are found in solid state, some are liquid and some are in gaseous state, like this. Non-metals are found in solid, liquid or gas. Solid non-metals are carbon, phosphorus, sulfur, selenium and iodine. Carbon as we discussed that it is hardest, one of the hardest. Liquid non-metal is bromine. Gaseous non-metals are hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, fluorine, chlorine. Fluorine, chlorine, bromine is liquid and iodine is solid. And noble gases are gaseous non-metal. There are some questions regarding the physical properties of metal and non-metal. So name them: a dull metal, a lustrous non-metal, a liquid metal, a liquid non-metal, a high malleable metal, a highly ductile metal, a soft metal which can be cut by knife. Give only one example. A metal which is poor conductor of heat. Give only one example. A metal which is best conductor of heat. Give one example. And metal which melt at our palm. Melt at our palm as cesium. Gallium and cesium are two metals which have very low melting point, but cesium is a radioactive element, so we can't take cesium at our palm. So always write the answer is gallium. Okay, these are the physical properties of metal, how they appear. Other than this, there are some more properties which you know, so I am not going to discuss, I am not going to write them, like density. Metals have high density, non-metals have low density, but exceptions are carbon, diamond, etc. And they have high tensile strength. Tensile strength means weight bearing capacity of wire. If a non-metal or a metal are is in wire form, then how strong they are to bear strength. So metals have high tensile strength and non-metals have low tensile strength. Okay. Next is chemical properties of metal and non-metal. Before going to the chemical properties of metal, non-metal, you must do the in-text question given in your NCERT book. And the activities you must, let's discuss some activities related to the non-metal physical properties of metal and non-metal. Activity 1. Activity 1 show that the copper, aluminum, magnesium, and why do we need to clean magnesium ribbon or aluminum or copper before burning, or they have dull appearance. Why they have dull appearance? Copper and sometimes copper have a greenish layer. So what is the reason of that greenish layer? So these are the reactive metals like iron. Iron has a dull appearance because these metals are reactive metals and they react with the atmospheric gases, oxygen, carbon dioxide, etc., and form a layer of it. Like aluminum form a oxide layer, magnesium also form oxide layer and becomes dull. In the next activity, activity 3.2, there are we know that the sodium can be cut by knife, as we did in class 9th practical classes, that sodium can be cut by knife. Next activity is 3.3. Activity 3.3, in which the malleability is given. Malleability is given that if we hammered some metals, they becomes thin sheets and they are malleable, but zinc is the exception in it. These are the activities given in your book, and go through the activities carefully, and if you have any question regarding these, you must discuss. Here is a table on page number 39. So you must complete this table, and if you have any question, then ask me. In page number 40, there are some questions related to the physical properties of metals and non-metals. So answer this in-text question in your notebook and then submit. So let's start the chemical properties of metals and non-metals.